Good morning, one and all, and welcome to another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Today, Wednesday, the 28th of September in the year 2022. We are here, we are ready, raring to go. So welcome to one and all. Hope you had a good, restful evening and that you are looking forward to today and other days. So welcome one and all. You know the drill, share the live, let them know that we're on today, speaking out, exposing corruption and incompetence. My colleague, Mr. Conway, is already in the studio, and we are raring and ready to go to bring you the information that you so value. Now, let me say this at the start. I am very much encouraged by the support and the following of this program. You know, people reach to me frequently to tell me how glad they are that this program, they look forward. We have regulars who look forward to this program. They don't miss it. Vibord, Dudley, Natasha, Lenny, Raul, the two Rauls, and I'm happy. Vibord and all others. They don't miss this program. They look forward to it. As a matter of fact, some people have been asking for us to go from 1 day a week to at least 2. We are considering it. But remember, we have other things to do. You know, we have other things to do, and we just don't want to come and to not have proper information to give you, and then you might find it boring. We don't want that. So, but we are considering your request. We also have a request to make sure to make arrangement to have call-in so that you can voice your concerns, you can make your contribution. All of these things are being considered. But for now, those of you who are watching the live, you make your comments, and we're going to deal with it, because I would normally go through the comments and make notes. So if a question is asked that wasn't addressed on a particular program, I'll make a note and I'll try to address it at a subsequent program. So share the live. Thanks for your support. Share the live. Let them know that we are here. And I've been saying to you, subscribe to the YouTube channel of the same name, Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. And once you do that, the program is going to get more popular. Also, once you're on the channel, just hit the notification button. That's a small bell at the bottom, and you're going to get the notification whenever the program goes live. So subscribe to the channel to make it popular. Hit the notification button to make sure that you get the notification when the program goes live. And we will try to be here frequently. We are going to be trying to overcome whatever challenges we have to make sure that we're here on a Wednesday to pass on the information to you. Now, and let me say this, full disclosure. Last week I indicated to you that the late, great Frances Duncan Clark will be buried today. That's the 28th. Now, the timing caused us, because the service starts at 10:30, and we were wondering, so how are we going to be there? Because you can't miss that, either virtually or in person. We can't miss that. That man was too great a man for us to not be there to give him a grand send-off. However, we also wanted to ensure that you, our loyal followers, get the opportunity to see this program. So what we decided on with the technical people is to make a recording. So this has been recording. A matter of fact, the time now is about 8 o'clock in the morning. It's recorded. So when you see it at 11 on the usual time, just be conscious of the fact that it was recorded earlier and it is being brought to you. All because we don't want to deprive you of the information. We are doing that. So again, that's another effort. That's another attempt just to ensure that we are here with you every Wednesday. So share the live. And you know, as I would always say, give thanks and praise to the Almighty for allowing us to see another day. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let's be glad. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Many persons have not been this fortunate. So share the live. Give praise and thanks to the Almighty that we are here in the land of the living, and we can be with you for this program. And later, we will be there to give my hero, my mentor, my friend, Franchot Henry Duncan Clark, the send-off he deserves. So those of you who are in Guyana, I'm sure you might want to go around to see, to pay your respects. And those of you who are elsewhere, and even so, those some of Guyana can join by Zoom. I'll give you the details. The details are on the page. So if you go to the same page, Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption, Incompetence, or my personal page, you will see the details there for you to follow via Zoom. So that's it. And well, let me say this. On the program, you will see that after the service, I think there's a cremation of Memorial Gardens, and then there's a repast at the Guyana Legion from 5 o'clock. People have been asking why the Guyana Legion. And I must inform you that the reason for the Guyana Legion is because the family couldn't get the police officers mess, which is really sad. Really sad. A man who served, retired as an assistant commissioner. He was a fixture at the police officers mess in the afternoons, evenings. He was once the president of the officers mess committee. And I don't know whatever it is, whether they have another activity there or not, but they couldn't get that venue. I'm told that there's no activity. You know, the bureaucracy and this body don't want to give permission. Well, that's sad. That is sad. That is the way you're going to treat former deceased senior officers. But it is what it is. But these things have to be pointed out so that you can know exactly what is going on. So, again, share the life. And let me take this opportunity now to welcome Mr. Conway. CC, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Glad to be in the land of the living. And we're in to go, Paul.
Yeah, good. Always good to see you. Always good to interact with you. And I'm sure that you're staying well. But it's always good to interact with you, and hope that you are well. Now, first subject, there's so many things for us to talk about this morning. So I want to start with what is a very topical issue, and that is the frequent fatal accidents. You know, last week when we spoke, we didn't mention the many accidents that they have in Guyana. And I was reading the Kaicho News, I think it was Monday, and they were saying that on Monday, they had seven fatal accidents in the past 10 days. So 10 days before last Monday, they had 7 fatal accidents. And since then, I'm aware of at least 2. We had one at West Coast Borbies involving the teacher and they said a car driver. And then there was this horrific accident on Mandela Avenue a few days ago where a person, according to the reports in the newspaper, a man, the father of 6, was riding his electric scooter and he was struck by his truck driven by a Trinidadian national, and apparently the wheel of someone in the wheels on the truck crushed his skull. So very, very horrific accident, and that would have been what? If you take that into consideration, I think it will be 9 in like about 2 weeks. So and we continue to say that something needs to be done. Something needs to be done about these frequent accidents all over. It's not limited to one area specifically, but all over here, these accidents, East Coast, West Coast Borbies, Quarantine Borbies, Georgetown, East Bank, West Coast, even on Region 2, Essequibo Coast, all over in the interior, 2 trucks so frequently on off the road. Mr. Conway, what are your views on these accidents?
I'm saddened with the amount of fatal accidents that we are having. But Paul, it calls for a total package to deal with accidents, particularly fatal accidents. All has got to be involved. And the police, not only the traffic ranks, but members of the general duty section, all must be involved. Well, my main point would be that people getting their driver's license too easily, corruption and other issues are prevalent. I can remember I mentioned it in a program a couple of weeks ago that there was a letter in the press by Rohan Singh, retired senior superintendent of police, who was head of the presidential guard and who was also in charge of the audit and inspection unit of the Guyana police force. And he made some revealing statements. He said, and that has not been, the police have never refuted that there was total corruption at traffic headquarters and in the various divisions in relation to persons getting the driver license, in relation to the loaner driver package. And he concluded that potentially 1,157 killers have been let loose on our roads. Perhaps the figure has risen, and those potential killers have turned rail killers. How do they get their driver's license? Paul, I remember you, the person who put forward a proposal for the loaner driver package. Perhaps you could claim some property rights there. And the thing is that it is not really working. Too much of corruption. Even the practical exercises where, apart from the certifying officer, member of the general duty section has to be there to oversee. Also, they need to do night driving, as the case may be. But those things aren't being done. And the commanders got to get involved. The commanders got to get involved to ensure that the procedures are followed in relation to the practical driving examination, especially at night. I don't know if they're doing night driving now. And the whole thing is in a mess, and it's not working. They need to revisit the SOP as it relates to the acquisition of driver's license. People are getting their driver's license too easily, paying a couple dollars, as the case may be, and they get a driver's license and they're let loose on the road. Therefore, we must have these accidents. And again, I can remember doing my own little research, and I checked with those persons who are all in driving schools. And my information is that over 90% of those persons who went to the driving school did not already have their driver's license. So they have their driver's license and then they go into the driver's school to learn to drive. And are those instructors competent? We need to look at the whole package, or we'll continue to have fatal accidents regularly on our roads.
Well said, CC. But traffic has always been dear to me because, as you indicated, I was once, on 2 occasions, I edited the traffic department of the Guyana Police Force. And I have said since then, I advocated for a comprehensive review of the whole arrangement in Guyana. As it is now, the police conduct the test, that's a theoretical test. Police conduct the practical test. And, let me clarify this so people, because people would say police issue driver's license. The police don't issue driver's license. What they do is that the police would conduct the test of competence, and then a certificate of competence is issued by the relevant persons in the force, the certifying officer, and that certificate of competence is taken to the Guyana Revenue Authority, and it's the Guyana Revenue Authority that issues the driver's license based on the competence certificate issued by the police. But I have said for a long time now, even on this program, that this traffic situation in Guyana needs a comprehensive review. I have said that police should no longer be involved in the issuing, the testing of drivers, whether by day or by night, the issuing of the certificate of competence, the examination of motor vehicles for the purpose of certifying them to be fit on the road. All of those things should be out of the domain of the police. And it's not rocket science. It is not reinventing the wheel. It happens in many jurisdictions. Many jurisdictions, there's an agency, the Department of Transport in the US and in the various states. I have a Antiguan driver's license, and the process wasn't administered by the police. There's a special department with qualified persons dealing with that. And therefore, under the Ministry of Transport, and this was long, I advocated this a long time ago. I think at the time, Minister Xavier or Nocta, one of the two, might have been the responsible minister. I advocated a long time that they need to review and to make sure that the old system is revamped. The old systems. We have, imagine, in terms of the certification of motor vehicles, the current system is that a police rank who is a licensing and certifying officer at certain locations, I know Brickdam, Easter Penitence in Georgetown, you go there to have your motor vehicle certified as being fit for the road. These forces have little or no training with respect to mechanics and all of that. So they're going to tell you that the vehicle is is fit to be on the road. Maybe the cursory look at the tires to make sure that the tires are not badly worn, to see that the trafficator, the indicators are working, the windscreen wipers are working, the light, low beam, high beam, and that is the extent. So nobody checks with the engine and the brakes and all of that. These things are not done, but then the vehicle is certified as being fit on the road. And I maintain that all of that has to change. You spoke about the driving schools. There's no law, there's no proper system. A person can just decide, well, look, I am going to set up a driving school. He advertises, and persons come, he teaches them to drive. There is no standard which says that in order for you to establish a driving school, in order for you to be considered as a competent driving instructor, you have to have this set of qualification. Madness. And no wonder we have all of these accidents, fatal accidents in particular on the road. It is worrying when you have at least 9 fatal accidents in 2 weeks, the 2 week span. I don't know, they don't release a figure any longer. Long ago, when I was there, we used to give a figure, compared it with the previous year, and they don't release. I have not seen any statistics in relation to fatal and other accidents in a long time. I have not seen that. But imagine 14 in 14 days, you have at least 9 fatal accidents. In some countries with comparable population around the Caribbean, you have, that's the whole year before you can get to the number. And if you were to look at it per capita, the amount of, or the number of fatal accidents per capita, Guyana is going to be right up there with the fatal accidents throughout the world. We are going to be right up there, which is very worrying. And the even more worrying is the fact that I have not seen or heard the people who are responsible, the government, the ministry, the hierarchy of the police, coming out with any statement to say, well, this thing is being addressed. Nothing at all. So lives are lost, innocent lives are lost so frequently, and the powers that be apparently seems incapable of taking steps to address the issue. It is very, very, very worrying. And I would hope that, because, they listen. Unfortunately, sometimes they listen for the wrong reasons, but they listen and they would seek to make sure that something is done. I saw, and again, tinkering. They are tinkering because a few months ago, I think it was some legislation, I think it was proposed to make causing death by fatal accident, the charge for motor manslaughter and the penalties were to be greater and all of that. Those things are tinkering. You're just tinkering with the issue. You need to have a comprehensive review. As I've said, one of the amphibians say that we identify problems and we don't give solutions. I said before, and this is a solution, you need to have a comprehensive overview. You need to look at what it takes to get a driver's license for the various categories in Guyana, who administers the test. the competency of the people to administer the test, and every stage you need to look at. As you said earlier, when I was the traffic chief, I caused the old system to be revamped, the learner driver system to be revamped. I know people, I know they're going to jump and say, well, and that's over 20 years ago. They're going to try to be critical. But what we had then was even worse than what we have now, because at that time, what you had was a case where classes were held, and in the various areas where learner driver classes were held, there was a limited number of students per month or per class. And there was always a long backlog. And allegations were that you had to then grease palms. You have to pay a bribe to get on to the program. And we sat down, and a colleague of mine from university, I was going at university at the time, Simeon Gorick, he was in the guard service. And I called Simeon and said, will we look at this? And we did a comprehensive study of it. And we put this proposal for this package that you see is being used up to now. We put together a proposal. We had to make a presentation. I had to make the presentation before the senior administration and answer the question, because as you can imagine, some of the senior people there were against. They made all sorts of comments. But at the end of the day, it was implemented with a lot of success because it removed that corrupt element in the process. So when I hear about corruption now in the system, I am dismayed, because the system that we put in place had checks and balances. For example, when you came to the learner driver theoretical examination, there were like 3 or 4 different sets of questionnaires, multiple size questionnaires. They were locked away in the safe. And if you were to ask me, if a test was scheduled for, let's say, today, and you were to ask me this morning, what are the questions? I didn't know, because what would happen is that you'll go into the safe, pick up one of these packages at random. There are different permutation of the questions and so on, and that will go out. And if you have, in many cases, the examination wasn't done on the same day at all the locations. Once you have that, then the next package will go to the other location. So we add these checks and balances. And as you said before, we had people outside of the traffic department, outside of the licensing and certifying office, who invigilated at these examinations. We got people from the religious bodies, we got people from the Ministry of Education to assist in going there, turn up. I myself, as traffic chief, used to turn up randomly and unannounced to just see what was going on. I have an experience when I was a young commander at West Demerara. Same thing with the practical examination. People were complaining of corruption, and I asked for the list. I think when I did so, I wasn't commander yet. I was the second in command. Mr. Bombry was the commander. I asked for the list of people who were scheduled to take the examination, and the list was provided, I think 15 or 16 persons. And I said to the guy who was conducting, I call his name, Chad Redman, he was conducting the examinations. I said, well, look, let me know when you're ready to start. And when they were ready to start, I turned up just before, and the number dwindled to about 1 or 2. All the other persons who were there to take the examination, once I got there to say, well, I'm going to assist in supervising this process, they disappeared, which tells you a story. So again, I say that this thing needs to be looked at comprehensively. This piecemeal thing where you pass a little amend the legislation here. And I remarked some time ago where we see now the magistrates are perhaps a little more willing to disqualify, because the magistrates can disqualify. The Minister of Home Affairs under the law can suspend, but you can only suspend if a person is charged for dangerous, I think, or causing death for dangerous driving. The magistrate can suspend the license. They can disqualify the person from driving. All of those things need to look at. We need to look at all of those things, because people are charged, they go before the court, and they back out. And the question was asked to, that you suspend a license, what mechanism, or you disqualify, what mechanism you have to ensure that those orders are enforced. And you say, well, a man is disqualified from driving, and he just jump in and drive out the same compound, that the thing. So all of these things have to be looked at. All of these things have to be looked at comprehensively.
Yes, Paul. You on the ball, and as you mentioned, we need to have a comprehensive package to deal with the traffic situation, and not only the enforcement, but the traffic education. The magistrates got to play their role, the police got to play their role, the ministry got to play their role. It's a total package that we need to put in place, and put in place very urgently, or the carnage will continue on our roads.
And you made a very interesting point about education, because one of the suggestions we had too was that you have to start in school. You know, when we were younger and when I was a traffic chief, you had what you call the corp drill. We they taught you the corp drill in school. We used to send persons, and you had road safety patrols at this school to assist children to cross and to teach them how to walk on the road, to teach them how to cross the road. You know, you would tell them corp drill, look left, look right, then look left again. And if it's you walk across the road briskly, all of those things have gone through the window. So you have a situation now where people at school of school age, especially with the advent of electric bicycles and all of that, they're riding to school, they're riding regular bicycles to school, and no one is taking the time to teach them the rule of the road, how they should use the road. And that is why we have, that is perhaps why we, that is a big part of the problem. So you need education, you need public service information. I made the point previously that you have a situation where the police corporate communication unit, I refer to them from time to time as the propaganda unit, because many times the information they give out is not really relevant information. And I have said that they should be the ones, perhaps along with others, to start to put out public service information, like which side of the road you drive on. This is one of my pet peeves, as I've said. People in Guyana don't know how to drive on the proper lanes. So they might be driving, let's say along the East Coast, which I used to drive, I drive frequently. They drive within the speed limit, but then they're in the incorrect lane. The rule of the road of Guyana say that you have to drive on the left or near side of the road, and you only move to the right if you are going to overtake. And as soon as you finish overtaking, then you have to go back into the left lane. Go along the East Coast, go along the East Bank at any time. People driving within the speed limit, which is good, but they sit on the wrong lane, the right side of the road, and you too driving within the speed limit, perhaps a little faster than they are driving. You want to overtake, and they're forcing you to actually undertake because they're on the wrong side of the road. And we have had so many fatal accidents and other accidents because of this one factor. So one would have thought that a proactive unit would have out there drilling it into people, signs up, road, drive on the left side of the road. Because a lot of people, as I've said, they go through the classes, if at all they go through, they read whatever is given to them. And these basic things they do not know. These basic things they do not know as to how you drive. And that is what I suspect is resulting in a lot of these fatal accidents. But let me hope that they are listening, and let me hope that they take it on board and make sure that these are comprehensive. You know, people say that the human resource is our most important and precious resource. If it is so, then we should do everything that is possible to make sure that we protect and safeguard the human resource. Too many persons are dying on the road of Guyana. Look, you had this, for example, you had this businessman, Kush, Mandela Avenue. I saw one of the accidents that they were reporting on, a Canadian citizen attempting to cross the road, I think it was I Street, struck and killed. We can't, we cannot sit back and allow these things continue. But let's move on, CC.
Yeah.
We also saw, I think it was last week, this incident on the Essequibo coast where a police sergeant killed his partner and committed suicide. He ingested a poisonous substance. And when I saw it on the news, you came to mind immediately, because I recall you on this program elsewhere advocating for psychological examination of police rank. What are your views on that?
I was saddened when I read about the murder suicide. And Paul, I've been saying all the time, there's a need for a behavioral science unit in the Guyana police force. And even getting back to this sergeant was in charge of the Office of Professional Responsibility on that Escribo course. There might have been an early warning. Understand he had posted something on his Facebook page. I didn't see it, which would give one the impression that all was not well with him. And the police has got to develop what we call there's something called early warning systems, EWS, which are data-driven management tools for identifying police officers with performance problems and for providing some intervention to correct those problems. That you need to pick up early, or you need to have what we call a hands-up approach to those problems. And you, Paul, you went to the FBI. We all benefit from the behavioral science unit at the FBI. This whole police thing is about behavior. And policemen must understand behavior, and they got to deal with behavior. Behavior is a major phenomenon that the police will have to deal with it. You have to deal with the behavior of the public, your friends, your family, your peers, your subordinates, your superiors, and your own behavior. Behavior is not only for the psychologists or the psychiatric people. It is important that we understand and appreciate the importance of behavior. And there's where training will have to come in, where they have to embed into the police force, into members of the police force at all levels. And behavior is not only for the ordinary ranks, behavior goes right up to the top. I remember the Chief Justice talking about behavior of a certain rank who was self-serving. And we have had a lot of misconduct, a lot of inappropriate behavior, a lot of unprofessional behavior right at the very top. And they need to inculcate into the mind certain subject areas like good communication, anger management, conflict resolution, effectively dealing with people, policing, things like policing multicultural and diverse society, emotional intelligence, self-esteem. Those things got to be taught regularly at all levels to the members of the force. And it fit into the UNESCO imperatives for learning, which saying that you'll have to learn to live together. You'll have to learn to be. You'll have to learn to do, and you'll have to learn to learn. What the police doing is that they're nibbling around the edges. They employ somebody, or maybe the person was sent to them with a first degree, and somebody called the person a psychologist. Imagine that. And the person there, I think the person, the last time I checked, was operating from the welfare department, doing what I do not know. That you need to have at least somebody with a doctorate in psychology to deal with people. And you can't get a one-man unit. It got to be a properly established unit to deal with behavior. Policing is about behavior. And if you don't do that, you'll have inappropriate behavior. You have unprofessional behavior, and all sort of things will happen. So I'm saying that establish, spend some money, spend some of the oil money, and establish a behavioral science unit in the Guyana police force. And don't employ a little somebody with a 1 degree. Employ somebody with a doctorate who will be able to deal with all levels from the bottoms up, from top down, as the case may be.
So well said. Somebody who is well qualified to handle the problem, because it is a real problem indeed. It's a real problem. And let me say this, only last evening I was reading a Newsweek article dealing with the same issue. And here what it says. Let me read this for the benefit of you, our loyal viewers. It says, and it deals with the same issue about police evaluation, psychiatric evaluation, and all that. And here what it says. and I quote here, nearly 50 sheriff deputies in one California county were relieved of key duties after receiving poor results from psychological evaluation. Nearly 50. And then it goes on to say they will be stripped of certain law enforcement duties that include their authority to make arrests and to carry firearm. So the evaluation was done based on the article. They were all evaluated, and I think this followed an incident where a member from the same department, the city department is about 1,000 strong, one of the largest county departments, about 1,000 strong, and there was an incident where one of the members, I think, killed someone, shot someone in a family dispute, and they decided to conduct this evaluation of all the ranks, and they made it clear that we're not saying that all of you might have a problem, but we're going to do this evaluation. And the evaluation found that about 50 of those persons failed the evaluation that was done. And they were removed from frontline duties. They couldn't make arrests. They couldn't carry firearm. And that is the way you have to go. But we have a situation in Guyana where no test is done. And we know that you have some mentally disturbed people in the force. When you look, and you spoke earlier about anger management and all of that, and how to de-escalate situations. When you look at several of the incidents that have taken place over the years, posted on social media, policemen fighting and policemen escalating, it is clear that the appropriate training is not there. Look, I have been an operational policeman for almost my entire service in the police force. And you know that, operational police. And you go there, it's not easy. It is not easy. Some people really test your faith. But that is where your training come into play, because if you're properly trained, you know how to handle these challenging situations. But when you have people go out there and they are not properly trained, somebody, you tell someone something, and then they are going to tease you, tell you something about your mother, tell you something about your sister, tell you about your sexual orientation. They tell you something, and if you are not properly trained and taught how to deal with this situation, they think you can escalate. I remember an incident some years ago. I was a young policeman. We went to Linden. There was some disturbances there, and we had a policeman. Winter, the old policeman who are listening will remember. We used to call it the screaming skull. Ormond was a very tempered person. And he was one of the CP gunners, the civil protection gun that shoots the smoke and so on. And he was standing under the coconut tree in the Wisma courtroom compound, because some people had gone to court. And a lady, teasy, and the lady said to him that she wished a dry coconut fall from the tree and kill his so-and-so. And the man took on, he started to respond to the lady. I remember is Johnny Charles, Assistant Superintendent Johnny Charles was one of the persons. He might have been a corporal or sergeant then, and I drew Johnny to the attention of Winter's behavior. And Johnny I said, Ormond, come. Go sit in the vehicle. Go sit in the vehicle. You look tired. Go sit. No, I'm not. I said, all right, go sit in the vehicle. That is how the matter was handled. So I'm saying that it requires a lot of training, and especially, and this article that I read last night from Newsweek, it tells you that some of these situations can be so challenging. And remember, you have people out there, young policemen in the late teens, early 20s. Not much of them, people would argue, perhaps are not psychologically matured enough to deal with some of these situations. You go to a scene, for example, and you find a body there that is either decomposed or a body that is mutilated. You have to have training to deal with the emotional trauma such a scene can cause. And you're going to a scene and all the blood and the training must be there. Now, going back to this issue with the sergeant and the executable course, I mean, it's unfortunately very sad that he took the life of his partner and he ended the whole life. And as you said, CC, there must have been early warnings. However, we are not sure that the people there are trained to detect these signs and to deal in a very proactive manner with these things. And it is clear, I did see something that they claim that he posted, actually said he premeditated to do what he did. So it wasn't done in a fit of anger, because he wrote on his Facebook thing, and then he ended it by saying it's going to be an open and shut case, which clearly indicated that he intended to kill her and to kill himself. And he ingested poison. So I guess you have to have acquired the poison of it there to use. But when you analyze it, this is a sergeant who perhaps would have easily had access to arms and ammunition. So, it's a good thing that he decided, well, saying this, and I hope you understand the context in which it is said, that he only decided to kill her and himself because he could have decided to uplift his firearm and go on a shooting spree, go on a rampage. He could have done that. So you're correct in saying that we need to make sure that we have this type of evaluation, this type of training. It is happening elsewhere, and we should have it in Guyana. Policing is not an easy job. It is very taxing, physically, mentally, very stressful. And therefore, we need to make sure that the policemen are taken care of, not only physically, but also their mental health. Their mental health is taken care of. Anything else on this one, CC?
Yeah, and just getting back to the early warning system is very, very important. And a way to police could start to, is that in their recruitment process, who they recruit, do they do psychological assessment? A lot of psychopaths must have gone in the system recently. Understand they had recruitment in Borbis and over 200 applicants. Maybe people with antisocial behavior and all kind of thing are being processed to become members of the police force. That you need to have psychological assessment, even at the most important at the recruitment stage, Paul.
Yeah, and a lot of things can be detected at that point. Psychological assessment, proper background check,
Yes,
can cause you to weed out very early.
yeah,
Because let's face facts. Let's be realistic. A lot of the people who are coming in to the force are coming in for the wrong reasons. Is that a case where they have this desire to serve and protect? People see it as a means of hustle, and I have had people relate to me. They see people in the force and they want to know how they got there. I recall some time ago, a young man came to me and asked for a recommendation. So what you wanted this recommendation for? You wanted the recommendation to go into the Guyana Police Force. I did not give it to him because I didn't think that he was suitable material for the Guyana Police Force. I know he had antisocial behavior. I know that he is not the type of material, and I refused to give him the recommendation. But how many persons you have with antisocial behavior getting into the police force? That's a good issue. Now, the next issue that I want to also address, I looked a few days ago, I think it was last night or yesterday. When you retire CC, you get the chance to read all kind of things, especially now with social media.
that's
There's information there. You just have to make sure that you do your investigation to make sure the information is authentic.
yeah.
Because Tom, Dick, and Barry jump on social media and profess to be an expert, and they write all kind of nonsense. So unless you are discerning, you're not going to pick up that is thing. But this one caught my attention. It says that, and this is on the east bank of Demerara recently, a day or two ago. A man had some items to remove from one location to the other. So he employed an elderly canter driver. He employed an elderly canter driver to remove the items. The police stopped the canter and the driver. They saw the items at the back of the vehicle, and they decided that they are arresting the driver and the other man because they said they suspect that the items might be stolen. They were arrested, taken to the station, put on bail, and I understand that the commander had to intervene for the people to get them to be released. But then the first thing that come to mind, if you're gonna arrest on suspicion, the suspicion got to be reasonable. And I asked myself, what was the reasonableness of this suspicion? And more importantly, the man having me taken to the police station, he's put on $20,000 bail. So I want to ask the question, what happened to the supervisors who would have been there? They did not look at this matter and realize that this you don't, first of all, I don't think they had grounds to arrest the person. Because if you are going to be arresting, and this is, take out your notebook, all of you who are listening, policemen in particular, the young policemen, if you're going to suspect that the articles might have been unlawfully obtained, then you have to, in writing your statement, the suspicion has to be attached to the articles. You can't say the people look suspicious or the vehicle looks suspicious. And if you're going to stop, you could not have seen the articles until the vehicle stopped. So on what basis, first of all, did you stop the vehicle? And what gave rise to your suspicion? These things have to be explained. These things are not taught to the young policemen. And in many occasions, they act believing they're doing the correct thing, and they are wrong. Mr. Conway, you are in charge of training for a number of years. You still have a abiding interest in training. What is your view on this matter?
Abiding interest in training and in the Guyana police force and law enforcement as a whole. Now, Paul, let me give you an experience that I had. About a year and a half, I went to Providence police station, deal with a report. And whilst there, a young constable came in the station. He brought in 3 persons. He went to the sentry there and he said, look, put this one on $10,000 bail, put this one in the lockups, and let this one stay till I come back. And he marched out from the office. And in that office, in his presence, and in the present and hearing of the inspector and a sergeant, and they didn't utter a word. Not a word. A young constable deciding who must go on bail, who must go in the lockups, and who must remain until he returns. And no record anyway, and nothing recorded. I know for sure when we're talking about training that when you carry somebody to the station, you record the names and so in the station diary that you arrested John Jones for simple larceny. And also we always put in a part that you check the exposed part of his body, no sign of injury seen. He made no complaint against the arresting rank or any member of the police force. Or if there are complaints, you record that. Or if there are injuries, you record that. And a constable can't decide who must go on bail. What happened with the sergeant? The sergeant is the person who is in charge of the station. If at station, they do records too. You record them in the station diary. They might need to make occurrence as the case may be. You record them in the prisoner's charge sheet. You take the prisoner's property. And most important, the man comes in there and no searching. You search because you might find evidence relative to the crime, relative to additional crime. You might prevent the prisoner from escaping, prevent him from injuring you or injuring others. And also with current issues, you might find a man with a piece of wire, a piece of sponge, and a lighter if you search him at the station. So the thing is that the supervision at station is critical. And Standing Order 6 talks about the duties of the SO and inspectors in charge of stations. And I could bet any amount of money. In the true sense of the Standing Order 6, I don't think they have 5 station sergeants in the Guyana police force who could qualify as a station sergeant. I could bet any amount of money when as it relates to Standing Order number 6. So the supervision is lacking. And the case that I had at Providence is not an isolated case. I think it's going on and going on. And the station sergeant is critical. There's no training for station sergeants. Years ago, since I was there, that training for station sergeant, specific training for station sergeant. Now here you have course and a whole set of nonsense. Station sergeant must be specifically trained for their functions as set out in Standing Order number 6. But that isn't happening. And the station sergeant is the go between the Guyana Police Force and members of the community. He is a man who's supposed to be building a relationship with members of the public, with the community policing, with the station management committee, and all the other various organizations that he is under his control. But the thing is, sadly lacking, Paul, that the supervision at station is lacking. And then you bring in persons, the key is reasonable suspicion. And if there's no reasonable suspicion, you can't get anybody. The Americans just talk about probable cause, but we're not dealing with probable cause. We're talking about reasonable suspicion. So the level of supervision at station is very, very critical. And there's where most of the problems in the Guyana Police Force emerge.
Well said, well said. But you know, you talk about arresting a person, taking them to the station. I recall back in the day, I was a special constable at Sparna Police Station in 1973. The sergeant there was Sergeant 5300, 5300 Corps Badge. The corporal was 5235 aboard. And let me tell you this, there's no way a rank can arrest a person from the road and take him to the police station and not report immediately to the sergeant that what this person is arrested for X, Y, or Z offense, and then they will give instruction as to how the matter should be proceeded with, including instructing you to make sure that your statement is written. Critical statement. Yeah. Well, let me pull you up on one matter. On bail too. Bail is critical. The sergeant determines who go on bail. The station sergeant determines who go on bail. But you know, you said you talk about bail, but you know now that even politicians, you had the experience where politicians decided whether you must go on bail or not, because people in the police force, including people who sit in the highest of offices, cannot instruct for people to go on bail on certain cases. You had that experience?
Yeah, let me talk about it. I talked before, let me repeat it. When I was breakdown there, we were there for hours. And the instructions are from Deputy Superintendent Harvey that Karimba said that we mustn't go up on bail. We must stay till next morning and go to court. And one of our attorney called a certain politician who is in government and asked him that we go on bail. And this was said in our presence and hearing. The phone was on speaker, and I have the recording. And he said that he's going to call Karimbash and tell him to put us on bail. And within 20 minutes, 2 persons from Suku came to Brigdan Police Station and put us on our own recognizance. I talked to Happy, the commissioner. He said, but I can't see you on bail, this is politics. And nobody else could have sent us on bail than a politician. So I know about that.
Yeah, so that reinforces the point. Everything gone upside down now. And we have spoken before about the political influence and involvement, direct involvement in the function of the police force. So you have a situation now where people are fearful. One, some of them don't have the requisite knowledge as to what should happen, what the standing order say, what the law says. So when some two-bit hustling politicians tell them do this or not to do this, they jump and they do and they carry out those unlawful instructions, and that is part of the problem that we have. But it is sad because, as you rightly pointed out, the most critical man at the police station is the station sergeant.
Yeah.
The most critical man at the police station is the police station sergeant. And you are absolutely correct in that it requires specific training, because in addition to all that he has to do in terms of making out duties, of course, which he can delegate, he has to look after the cash book. He has to do so many other things, make sure that cases are prepared for prosecution in court. He has a lot to do. He should be interacting with the members of the public and all of that. So you're correct. And it requires proper training because, as you know, and many people know, the fact that a man wearing 3 stripes does not make him suitable material to run a station. And we have had situations where even corporals are more qualified and suited to run stations than a man who wearing 3 stripes. So let's understand, it requires training. And to have gone over the past 2-3 years, perhaps even longer, without specific training, without a specific training for station sergeants is a really sad commentary. How do you expect stations to function? How do you expect the individuals to function if these people are not trained and properly equipped? So I agree fully that they need to look, and not only the station sergeant, let's say middle management level. That has been for a number of years a big problem. And even back in my day, it was a problem. And I think the problem now is even worse because of the type of people we have at the middle and above. And let me say this too, I'm sure you will agree and the viewers will agree that if you don't have proper supervision at that level, it's chaos at the bottom. So in many cases, that is why you have all of these allegations of corruption, all of these allegations of unprofessional behavior by the junior ranks because they are not properly supervised. They are not properly supervised. Let's move on, unless you want to say anything more on that.
No, let's move on.
All right, let's move on because, you know, we said time does really fly almost an hour already. Yeah. Now, we got to deal with this Boston, the Boscom issue again. I read recently, I think it was yesterday, that he has been interdicted from duty by the man who sits in the chair, and he is placed on half pay. Now, I want to say that once a rank is charged and put before the court, the correct procedure is for him to be interdicted. So I don't have a problem with his interdiction. The half pay is an issue because I recall not so long ago, over the past couple of years, a matter came to my attention when I was at the commission that there was a ruling, some court ruling or something, which says that it was unlawful to deprive a person of his salary, even when he was interdicted. So this thing about interdiction and pay and half pay, the half pay part might not be totally legal. But what came to mind almost immediately, and I've said I have no problem with that because that is what the procedure is. Once a person is charged and placed before the court, criminal charge and placed before the court, he's interdicted from duty pending the outcome of the charge. You have had cases in the past, and these case laws are there. And I know they have some bright young policemen, so you can do the research and see it. Because what used to happen years ago is that people used to be interdicted pending the outcome of the charge, and even before the outcome, they are dismissed in the public interest. Those matters were challenged, all of those cases challenged, and the courts have held that you can't interdict a person pending the outcome, and even before the outcome, you are dismissing that person. They said the suggestion is that if you tell them you're interdicted pending the outcome of the charge, the implication there, it is implied that if the outcome is favorable, the person is going to be reinstated. And then if the outcome is unfavorable, then you can use the necessary legislation to dispense of that person's service. But that is stopped. And people, back in the day when I was there, that had stopped. But then I saw following, I think it would have been around in the 2015, perhaps around that time, I noted that they start back dismissing people from the time they're charged. But they got something called natural justice. There's something called the presumption of innocence. So when a person is charged, there's a presumption of innocence until that person is proven guilty by a court, by a competent court. And I am happy to see that the interdiction took place because not so long ago in July, the ranks who were involved in the Quindon Bacchus murder, the 3 ranks, Damian McLennan, Tristan Simon, and the other guy, they're charged, and from the time they appear in court, they're dismissed. And I had said on this program that is unlawful. I wrote a letter which was which was published in the regular media about the same issue. There's a presumption of innocence, and you cannot lawfully dismiss a person all because the person is charged. And I had said then that I was hoping that the persons affected would challenge the dismissal. I got an indication some time ago that they would do that. I haven't gotten an update as to what has happened, but that is unlawful. So apparently they are now advised, because I know they don't do nothing unless somebody tell them, well, you got to do this. They're instructed, even though they have the authority, they're instructed what is the correct thing. So I guess the man in Main Street might have instructed them, well, you can't terminate the service just like that. Natural justice, presumption of innocence, you have to interdict and proceed in that manner. And I read, it was published yesterday in Stabrook News, the last part of the interdiction letter, or notice as we would call it, that was sent to Bascom is very baffling. The wording says, your failure to attend court or to be available when summoned by the Guyana police force may result in your being absent from duty and may have consequences therefrom. There may be consequences therefrom. So the question is, and see, I gotta ask you, how can a rank who is interdicted from duty, pending the outcome of criminal charge, be absent from duty?
Can't be, Paul, can't be.
So I don't know where these people are so, I want to be charitable to them. So let me say they're so misinformed. They're so ill-advised. You cannot interdict a rank and then tell the rank that if you can be absent from duty. First of all, the rank is interdicted. He appears before court. He is put on bail. So for all intent and purpose, he is now the subject of the court. Right? The court, in this case, I understand the bail is conditional in that he had to lodge his passport, he has to report at a police location at a certain time. It says in the same notice that he's not supposed to. They instruct him, he must hand in the uniform, he mustn't wear uniform, which is good, but he must not report to any police location unless he is making a report. So what happened to the court order, which says that he should report to a police location at a prescribed time? So they're saying that he mustn't do that. It's amazing the level or the display of incompetence by these people who sit there in these senior positions. How can you tell a rank who is interdicted from duty that if he fails to, if he's called by the police and he fails to turn up, he can be absent from duty? Can you help me out here, man?
I can't help you because you can't be absent, Paul. You cannot be absent. Nonsensical nonsense, my son would say.
That's right. Oh, it is sad. I know there has been a 9, and they say that we are embarrassing them. And I say again to the audience, we have to use this forum to bring these things to attention, because we can't call them and advise them as we used to do years ago.
Paul, some people get high, what we call SB, and SB is signing blindly. So the SB high thing just comes and you sign.
The thing is laughable. If the person fails to attend court, that's not a matter for the police. The man he appeared before court and he's put on bail by the magistrate. If he fails to attend court, the police have nothing to do with that. The magistrate has to decide how that is to be dealt with. Yeah. Either issue a warrant for his arrest, with the warrant is issued, then and only then the police can get involved. But to tell a man, and they're writing these things. They're writing these things, right? Or failure to attend court or to be available when summoned by the Guyana police force will result in your being absent from duty. If the man is put on bail by the court, police ain't got nothing to do with that. The police have nothing, absolutely nothing to do with that.
They're prejudging. Sometimes I fail to attend court, but I have valid reasons.
Well, exactly, and therefore the magistrate...
I'm hospitalized or something,
The magistrate, the man might have, his attorney might be able to convince the magistrate that he had good grounds not to be there. He might be unwell or something might happen. Yeah. And the magistrate is the magistrate to decide. What? Because the magistrate who gave the order for him to go on bail,
Yeah.
and it's the magistrate that would have attached conditions to the bail. But now the police, upon usurping the function of the magistrate, to tell the man that if he absent from court, he can be deemed for absent from duty. How going to court as a defendant is duty, police duty. You're suggesting to me that going to court as a defendant in a matter is police duty? What rubbish is that? As I say, you can't answer, and I would not press you to answer. But I hope that they're listening, and I hope, as they did with the Shannon Ballas case, where they withdrew the notice and corrected it, did the correcting. I hope again they look at this and they withdraw this nonsense that they have there and prepare a proper notice. And if they go into the records, they will see many previous notices, the wording and everything that is in the notice, and how an interdiction notice is done. Again, I emphasize that you cannot tell a man who is interdicted from duty and placed on half pay. I said the half pay is questionable. If he fails to attend court, or if he fails or is not available when the police want him, he can be deemed to be absent from duty, and consequences can flow. Well, the only consequence that can flow from that is the Senate can dismiss him if he absent from duty. So it seems to me, having regards to all that is taking place with this Bascom matter, that they're designing special policies and they're creating their own law to deal with this whistleblower Bascom. That is the only answer that can be I can provide for this nonsense that is written in this notice. And I read it in the newspaper, so it's circulated all over the place. I read it in Stabrook News yesterday, that it is circulated all over. It was also on one of the nightly news on social media. So here it is. The police I command once again found wanting in that man is interdicted. And as I said before, yeah, I have made it clear that once a person is charged with a criminal offense, they should be interdicted from duty. That is the policy. You can't have a man charged for a criminal offense and still working in a police, even though we have had cases where that has happened. But the man is interdicted, which is the correct thing. The half pay issue is something that is controversial. I have not seen the exact ruling, but I recall when I was at the Police Service Commission, it was brought to my attention that a court or there was some order to the effect that when a person is interdicted from duty, you cannot deprive them of the salary. You have to continue to pay them. And then this other one now they're saying that if he fails to attend court, or to be available when the police summon you, you can be deemed to be absent from duty. Because let me be fair, you have ranks now in the Guyana police force who have been interdicted for years.
Yeah.
Years, they've been interdicted for years, 4 or 5 years, perhaps even longer than that, pending the outcome of charges before court. They have been interdicted for years. And you and maybe placed in half pay. You want to tell me that those persons have not sought employment elsewhere? How are they going to upkeep their family? How are they going to maintain themselves on half pay? I assure the people working, and if a man is working, nothing is wrong with that. If he's interdicted, he's working, and you want him to come to you for some reason, are you telling me if he can come, he's absent from duty, and consequently there will be adverse consequences? That is nonsense. And I say again, I am glad that they recognize that the process is to interdict a rank when he's charged, regardless of what offense he's charged for. Even the most egregious offense, as in the Abacus case where one is charged of murder, I think 2 are charged for perverting the course of justice. There is a presumption of innocence. The rule of law dictates that you can't set a guilty and dismiss them. They have to go through a proper process. They went ahead, they jumped ahead, they dismissed Damian McLennan, they dismissed Simon, and they dismissed the other guy. I can't remember his name now, but all 3 that were there were dismissed. And I said then, as I said, this is unlawful. And I had said to the people, challenge him. challenge it. The fact that they are now interdicting in this Boston case is a clear indication that they recognize, all of these matters where they acted unlawfully and dismissed persons. They have a particular lawyer that these aggrieved ranks will go to. And once they go to this lawyer, even in every single case,
That's true. That's true.
every single case, even not so long ago, the Attorney General was on complaint about the amount of money that the government has to pay out with these cases where police acted incorrectly. Not only in terms of arresting people but the same unlawful action by the one in senior position. CC?
Yeah, Paul, and I agree, and I'm happy like you that they have taken the steps to interdict as distinct from dismiss. And I hope that those persons who were dismissed will fight their case. There's so much of things they do, that it is baffling. But the thing is, let them do the correct thing. Interdict. And sometimes they don't even have any evidence at all. But interdict and let the court decide the case one way or the other.
Yeah, and let me say this as we're talking about interdiction, because I did write to the force some years ago to tell them that the same interdiction, there are two circumstances when a rank can be interdicted. If a person is charged criminally, they can be interdicted and until the outcome of the charge. And if a person is charged departmentally under the Police Discipline Act 1701, I think it's section 10, if the person is charged departmentally, they can also be interdicted. But I had to bring it to the attention of the administration some years ago, because even before ranks were charged departmentally, they were being interdicted. So I had to draw their attention to section 10 of the Police Discipline Act, which says that the rank can only be interdicted once charged for a criminal offense. And if the person is not charged, the person can be suspended from duty. A person can be suspended from duty. You don't charge them, or you're not interdicting them. And that came about, if you remember, with the Duki case, where the judge ruled that in Duki's case, that the correct authority to suspend, because I think at the time, Ramnarayan was the acting commissioner, and he suspended him pending this investigation. And the court ruled quite correctly that they hadn't the authority to do so. It was the Police Service
Commission,
who have done that. You remember the case? There's the case Duki versus, I think, the commission.
Yeah, I remember it. I have a copy of
I have a copy of that ruling too. So
is that the female Justice Corbin?
Correct. And I have said to the police hierarchy at the time, I said, in light of that ruling, even though the ruling spoke about the Police Service Commission in relation to officers and inspectors, in light of that ruling, the Commissioner of Police can suspend ranks below the rank of inspector pending the outcome. But again, these people don't follow, they don't read, and they don't follow proper advice. So they can follow an advice not to send around.
All they're reading more than before. They're reading text message, TikTok, and all them kind of thing. They're reading more than before.
They're reading the wrong things. I guess they just read it to see if you to claim that you libel them, or you defame them, or you cause them emotional distress, so they can go and bring cybercrime charge against you and all. But you have to read to educate yourself. You can't be in these positions and making these glaring mistakes so repeatedly, man. Something is wrong. Because if you have a proper system, and let me face facts. You can't know everything. You cannot. But if you operate in a proper manner, then you can call someone, even one of your colleagues who are there, and there's nothing wrong. Let me say this to them in big position. You sit down there, or you tell yourself, you is the big chibat, you is the bial and the and all. There's nothing wrong in calling someone who is junior to you who might be a specialist in a particular area to find out from them what is the correct procedure.
Yeah.
To find out. You have people back in the day who were perhaps staff officer. I think they changed the designation now. People like people back in the day like George Fraser, who were specialists in the general office. And commissioners would call them to find out about a particular thing. I remember I was traffic chief, and the commissioner, Larry Lewis, would call to find out about certain matters and so on. There's nothing wrong with that. That is why you have people, competent people in specialist area to be able to guide you to how certain matters are done, because you don't know when you're a commissioner, you're senior people in the force, so that you don't know if make out a complaint without you may never swore to the information, and you can't remember these things. Somebody might call you or something might come up. You have to get the people who are competent to guide you, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you sit in the chair and believe that you know it all, and therefore you don't have to take advice or seek guidance from anyone, you are in for big trouble. And that is why perhaps we have all of these nonsense. According to Nina Lewis used to say, all this nonsenseness that is going on. And again I say, with the same Bascom matter, a few weeks ago, following the RAS report, the report from the RSS.
You're looking out the vowel, man. The vowels are A-E-I-O-U, Paul.
So, following this report, there has been a claim, there has been a request to the Commissioner of Police, and there's been a request to the Commission of Information for them to provide this report. And the report, I think it's about 2 weeks now, this report cannot be provided. I said before on this program, CC, you can bear me out, that I don't believe that anyone from the RSS came to Guyana. I don't believe that there's any report. And somebody said on social media this morning, I was reading, how can they produce a report when a report was never presented to them? So you come out, the Ministry of Affairs, and say these are the key findings. And we say, show us the report. Let me see what the findings are. You don't precede the thing and tell us what you think. So up to now, you can't see this report. The lawyer did say, Mr. Hughes representing Bascom did say, he has no expectation now of getting the report, and he will consider the other options. And then around the same time, when they claim that this report was submitted, if you recall, the president had said publicly that he wasn't sure whether the report was completed, but he said he's going to I can't remember the exact word he used, but he said he's going to let the Commissioner of Police make the report available to the public. But it was shortly after that, the minister has said that he is not sure whether the report was complete. He's not in receipt of the report. And within a day or two, they were able to provide what they say were the main elements of the report. And around the same time, there was an article in Saarbrück News which said that a foreign security team was in Guyana assessing the Bascom claim. This is about 2-3 weeks ago, and I have never heard anything more about that. Have you, Mr. Conway?
Nothing more. I'm getting back to the minister on this, that he didn't see any report. It just like what happened concerned consistency of conduct or behavior. Remember with the promotion on the 1st of July, the chairman of the Police Service Commission said he was awaiting the list from the police in terms of recommendation. And on the morning of the 2nd, 250-something persons were promoted. Consistency of conduct. The minister didn't get anything, but next day his ministry can give you 8 key points, as the case may be. I don't believe they had any report, and I don't even want to believe anything what they're saying coming out of that ministry, coming out of the police.
If you have the report, show us the report. We understand that you might have names and things or some other aspects that you might want to redact and let us see the report. Let us see the report so that we can judge ourselves. Don't give us this William Barr thing, where when Mr. Mueller, Robert Mueller, investigated the Russian involvement in the American election, and he submitted the report, Barr came out and said the report did not find this and the report did not find that. He told the public, the American public and the world, what the report said. And that was actually disputed in a very diplomatic way by Mueller.
Yeah.
And then later when the report was made public, we even discovered that Barr did not really tell, he was not very candid in what he portrayed. And I believe that is the same playbook the ministry is coming from. They tell you what the thing said. They are telling you what the report said, and they're not giving you the report. And you would note that you have more the peak, not a peak from RSS or who is supposed to have represented RSS. They say nothing. They have not said a word, and therefore it gives rise to suspicion. And I am saying that based on all that has transpired, let them prove me wrong, man. Let them prove me wrong. That there was never any one here to do the review, and that there is no what is put out as being pointed in the report is not so. That is what I am saying, and I would glad for them to prove me wrong by producing the report. And even if they were to produce a report now, CC, you gotta check. You know, as policemen, we do analyze these things. You gotta check what they even if they put a particular date, on this report, it might very well be a case where they also now because of pressure and trying to backdate something. I mean, we know we've been around long enough, we experienced enough to know how things go. Huh?
I remember incident, where Commissioner Larry Lewis had given approval on the special prosecutors course. First one we run that the guys must be given a stipend every month. And after 3 months, when I applied for the stipend, the finance officer right not approve. So I talked to Felix, who was deputy commissioner, and I complained to him. So he called the finance officer, said, all right, the commissioner said the members give stipend, and you said they mustn't get any because you had written not approve. And the man scratched the nut and let them approve. And call the finance, pay this money, and Carl can't make for the check. He scratched the nut and left the approve. Yeah. So all could happen.
But in closing, let me say this. You got big thing up in Guyana about this cricket carnival. Cricket being played at the stadium. I see the Warriors took blows yesterday. Yeah. And I think they're going to be playing tonight against the Jamaican Talons. I wish them well. But when I looked at the arrangements, cricket carnival, all the days at the stadium, some days, day and night, you have these artists coming and all of these policemen working. I have to ask myself whether these policemen are being paid extra duty. Because I know that cricket at the stadium, whether it's CPL, whether it's cricket, West Indies cricket, whether it's the Guyana Cricket Board cricket, policemen are paid extra duty to be there. So I really want to know if these ranks are being paid extra duty for all of these activities, all these shows they get all over the place, because I have a strong suspicion, knowing some of the persons involved, they're going to want to say, well, they've been paying because it's government-sponsored thing. It's either the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport or something like that, so they're not going to pay. So maybe the ranks who are working there can let me know if they are being paid or if they have promised payment, what the arrangements are, because as I know it, they are entitled to payment. Because when I say I know it, I run this thing for years,
Yeah.
For years. Cricket World Cup 2007, Cricket T20 World Cup 2010. I know all the international matches. I know that policemen are paid extra duty at the approved rate. So the thought has occurred to me when I see the policemen in the stadium and when they have other activities. It occurred to me that perhaps you should find out whether these ranks are being paid. Now, in closing, and then, let me say that I saw, was to mention last week, but time ran out, where a businesswoman, I think it is, lost 400 million Guyana dollars in gold, which I understand was secured in some home, and some constructors or carpenters were working discovered it and stole it. 400 million Guyana dollars is $2 million US worth in gold. And you're just hearing about the theft of the gold. But I think one might want to question, why are you keeping all that gold in the house? Is this to evade the payment of royalty? Or so why are you keeping all that gold in your home, Mr. Conway?
And not only she, my intelligence that there are several others have large amount of gold stacked away. They're not using the banking system. A lot of money laundering taking place. And I understand some policemen were under arrest. I was happy to know that they didn't mention close arrest, but they were under arrest in relation to that.
The same matter.
Yes.
Well, again, as I said, these things have a limited shelf life. They come up and they're in the news, and then a couple of days after, you don't know anything about it. For example, a few months ago, we heard about the incident at Vigilance Police Station where a young man claimed that he was set afire, but he was tortured by the police. You don't know anything more about that,
True.
They had said that a man was to be charged for giving him the items, and some action was to be taken against 2 ranks who were there. That gone under the carpet. You don't hear anything about that. You don't hear anything. And that is one of the problems you have. These things occur, and it catches your attention for a little while, and then sweep under the carpet.
And then, Paul, in relation to the incident at East Bank where the commander got involved, you didn't hear anything about the ranks who did not perform the duty professionally.
The neglect. Well, that is what it has come to. Now, any closing remark from you, CC?
Not really any closing remark, but just that we need to continue to highlight things. We need to continue to do things to ensure that the police deliver the highest quality of service which they swore to give to the Guyanese population.
Say well. Now, folks, thanks for your attention again. Thanks for being here this morning. I hope you, as usual, found the program informative. And it is our duty, it's our goal to share, to educate. As I've said, people have been telling me how much they learn from listening to Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. I want to, again, encourage you, as you can see scrolling at the bottom of the screen there, to subscribe to the channel. I noted many of you have gone there and have subscribed, and it's going to make it more popular. The news, once you do that, it gets to more people, not only in Guyana, but around the world, so that people can see what is going on. People can make a contribution in terms of the comments. Some comments can be taken on board, and in some cases, they point us to a direction where we can get additional information, and that is what we want. So, as I would say too, weekly COVID is still around. The numbers are still. I was pleased to see some day ago, 1 or 2 days ago, they said that there was no reported case, and that was reported case. But don't be fooled by that, because remember now with the home test kit and all of that, a lot of people will test at home. And once you test at home, I don't think there's any protocol if you test positive for you to report that to the ministry. So those numbers are not going to be captured. So I say to you, continue to be safe, continue to protect yourself. The monkeypox business, I don't think, they said the last patient, they were 2, and the last one was discharged. So it gave the impression there is no active case in Guyana. But you need to continue to protect yourself and be safe. And I want to wish you all the best, and to say to you, God spare your life, next Wednesday at 11 o'clock. We're going to be here again. Whether we have to be live, whether we have to record, we are going to make sure that we're here to give you the information. So next Wednesday, God spare your life, we're going to be here again on another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. For now, bye. Goodbye.